Bernie Sanders appeared on CNN recently. He was discussing the issue of Medicare for All, but in this segment, or in this matter here, speaking kind of directly to the whole, like all the attacks and stuff from Joe Biden, and also some comments made regarding or made by Kamala Harris regarding Medicare for All, where she basically made a very bad defense of Medicare for All and said that she would not raise taxes on the middle class. Bernie Sanders responded to that by saying we have to raise taxes on the middle class, but that it's going to be offset by the fact that you don't have to pay any more premiums, co-pays, and deductibles. So since all those three are going to be taken, are basically not going to exist anymore, the taxes, people are going to be able to afford the taxes. So Bernie explains it much better here. This is about a 6-minute segment or so in an interview with a CNN host. So check out this segment, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
When you talk about these other countries that have universal health care, a lot of those other countries don't necessarily have only Medicare for All, for example. They also offer an insurance option. And one of the arguments I've heard from those in the Democratic Party who are also running to be president is, why not have both as options? Because Biden, for example, argues throwing out private insurance to transition to a Medicare for All would just simply take too long. And he agrees with you. People need help now.
Well, let me answer you a lot of questions. It doesn't take too long. Think back to 1965, before we had all of the incredible technology that we have today. In 1965, out of nothing, Lyndon Johnson and the Congress created Medicare. And Medicare is now the most popular health insurance program in the country, far, far more popular than private health insurance. If they could do that in 1965, I just cannot accept the argument that over a 4-year period, we cannot do it now. So what we are proposing is first year, lower the eligibility age from 65 to 55, and also in the first year, by the way, expand benefits for seniors to include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses, which Medicare does not cover right now. That's very important. First year, go down to 55, then 45 next year, then 35 the following year, and then cover everybody. This is clearly something that is doable. If every other country on earth can do it, we can do it as well. And
so when does private insurance just go away?
Because if you want to save money, you have got to get rid of the profiteering of the insurance company.
Right, I hear you there. But if it's a 4-year transition period, is it 4 years that private insurance will still be around before it all goes away? Or how do you get rid of the private insurance? There
will be a transition period. That is right.
Now,
but I'm sorry, go ahead, Anna.
I'm sorry, too. I think there's just a slight delay. I want to push you on the timeline, though, because Kamala Harris, who also says she believes in Medicare for All, she says it will take longer than you're suggesting. She says it's not realistic. Here's what she told our Kyung Law.
How long will this transition take?
I think the transition is going to have to take, the bill is 4 years. I think it's going to have to take more than that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And all of this done without a middle-class tax hike?
Without a middle-class tax hike, yes.
She says under her Medicare for All plan, the middle class won't pay more taxes. I know under your plan they will, right?
Well, let's be clear, okay? Let's be clear. This is going to be the Republican talking point, and let me respond to it. Right now, people are paying taxes for health care. It is called premiums. It is called co-payments. It is out-of-pocket expenses. If you are a family of 4 today, self-employed, you are spending $28,000 a year in premiums and out-of-pocket expenses for health care. Now, how would you define that? So under a public health care system, Medicare for All, of course, taxes will go up. Under our view, they will go up in a progressive way. When we have massive income and wealth inequality in America, it is going to be the wealthy and the top 1% who will be paying significantly more in taxes. But I'm not going to sit here and in a straight face tell you that, people are going to be paying much less in their premiums and out-of-pocket expenses. They will, in many cases, be paying somewhat more in taxes. But at the end of the day, they're going to be paying less for health care. For example, if right now, just as a hypothetical, Anna, your family was spending $15,000 a year on health care, and I said to you, you're not going to have to pay any of that. No deductibles, no co-payments, no premiums. You're going to pay $7,500 more in taxes. You'd be $7,500 to the good. So that is the debate that we're having. It is going to be publicly funded. It's going to be funded out of the tax base, but we are going to eliminate completely out-of-pocket expenses and premiums and co-payments.
Okay, I'm following. Is Senator Harris then being forthcoming or realistic when she says middle-class taxes won't have to go up to pay for Medicare for All?
We're going to have to look at what a tax plan will look at. And we have given options in our proposal. This is a large program. My guess is that people in the middle class will be paying somewhat more in taxes, but they're going to be paying significantly less overall in health care. But that will depend upon the type of tax plan to fund Medicare for All that we come up with. But let us be clear right now. If you consider premiums, as I do, a tax, the working class of this country is very heavily taxed, and we will lower that burden.
Would you be willing to moderate at all on your health care position? Will you support Biden care if Biden wins the nomination?
Will I support Biden care? No, I think our proposal, well, what I have said, you're asking me two questions, really. Number one, will I support, if it is not me, somebody else who becomes the Democratic nominee to defeat the most dangerous president in American history? You bet I will. I will do everything I can to defeat Donald Trump. I hope that I am the candidate, and I am confident others will do the same. Do I believe that what Joe is talking about is a good idea? I don't. At the end of the day, by the way, when we talk about cost, what leading Medicare, healthcare economists have told us, if we leave the current system unchanged, you're going to be talking about extraordinary increases, something like $50 trillion 10 years from now, over a 10-year period. That is too much money. We need a cost-effective system which gets rid of the incredible complexity and administration and bureaucracy that currently exists. So if you want to talk about a cost-effective system that guarantees health care to all people, that expands benefits for seniors, Medicare for All is the way to go.
Beautifully put by Bernie. He nailed it, as usual. And as I said, and, as he explained in that little exchange there with the host, he lays it out perfectly. And he says, listen, if you have certain amount of costs, I think he said the example that he used was, 15,000. Obviously, he's not using any, specific numbers, any, specific costs or anything. But if you're making, you're spending $15,000 on insurance, whatever, insurance and, whatever kind of health issues you have, and you're spending $50,000 on that because of the health insurance companies make you. So and that's all copays, deductibles, premiums, all that stuff, including all the overhead and everything put together. All those costs comes to $15,000. Once that's taken away, the tax cuts that you're going to have to pay, which are not going to be that, the tax hikes that you're going to pay is going to be so minimal because, when it comes down to it, you don't really need to spend that much on healthcare to the point that the health insurance companies make you pay, because the amounts that the health insurance companies make you pay for care is so absurd. It's so bloated. It's just like a bloated military budget. There's so much money that's spent on this government spending, and it's just completely wasteful. So the way, in this, at least in this regard, in this form of government spending, it's much more responsible and it's much more efficient. And it's used in a way where it's a single payer system, and whatever amount that you don't pay in copays, premiums, and deductibles, it gets offset by the taxes that the tax hikes that you have to pay, but at least you get better care. So I can't remember exactly what analogy he used in the $15,000. You're paying $15,000. I think he said then you'll pay $7,500, so you'll pay half that amount, $7,500 instead, because you're not going to pay all that money in deductibles, premiums, and copays. So yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more in taxes, but at least without all those premiums, copays, and deductibles, then you don't have to you don't have to, all the money doesn't have to go to that, and then it'll go to tax hikes, and then you get better care. It's a perfectly normal, sensible solution. And, we can get into the details a lot more. I mean, obviously, we would like to hear a lot more details as far as specifically how it's laid out. But I mean, if you want to take Bernie's word at, you want to take Bernie's word at what he says, which I do, I think, I trust him in what he's saying when he lays it out like that. And he says that's how it's going to be. Obviously, you implement the plan and it happens, and then you got to see how it turns out. So it's not, I don't think it's that cut and dry. I think it's going to take a lot more fine tuning to get it done. But I believe him when he puts it out, he lays it out like that. It makes sense. And anybody, and this was always something that I realized too, because because obviously, when the first Medicare for, the first conversation that came out regarding Medicare for All in 2016, everybody was like, oh my God, we're going to have to pay so much money in taxes, so much this, so much that. Taxes have to be, spent to cover this, blah, blah, blah. So, and I always thought to myself, and I'm not an economic expert. I'm not I'm actually pretty bad at economics. I took a couple of classes in school, and I barely passed those classes because it's kind of hard to follow sometimes. Those are the kind of things that, you can't really simplify it. It's something you either get or you don't. And I was never really good at math either. So, but I always thought to myself, arithmetically in my head, I was like, that just, it doesn't make sense how people say we can't afford to pay higher in taxes to cover, for example, in this case, healthcare, whether it's healthcare, whether it's, free college and stuff like that. Like when they claim we can't afford to pay for this, I'm like, yeah, but you're paying all this. So in the case of healthcare, you're paying all this money for all these deductibles, copays, and premiums, but those are going to go away under a single payer plan. And the only thing I have to say about Bernie regarding this is I wish he would have come out with this argument sooner, because a lot of people it would have given people a better opportunity to kind of ingest that information and kind of take it in and be like, okay, well that makes sense, so now I don't have to pay as much in all those deductibles, premiums, and copays. So then I'm willing to pay a little bit more in higher taxes, and I guarantee you that's what all the other countries, all the other industrialized countries like Scandinavia, Europe, Germany, and France and Canada, even UK. I guarantee you that's what all those other countries do, and it works out for them. So why can't it work out for us? The only thing you can say is, well, we have 330 million people out there. So yeah, that's true. But at the same time, we're spending trillions of dollars on wars and all that wasteful bullshit. So under Bernie, if Bernie is president, we have a president, Bernie Sanders, he's going to be able to, I believe, and I think many of us believe, that he will be able to allocate that amount of that amount of money, that wasteful spending, to be spent efficiently and the right way, instead of doing it for endless wars that we're not even supposed to be involved in the first place. So, as we talked about in the last segment, Joe Biden was obviously going after Medicare for All, and he chimed in on this, on this kind of, obviously, this conversation, and he, I don't think it was in response to this segment specifically, but he was responding to the fact that, taxes are going to have to go higher to pay for Medicare for All, and he was basically bragging about how his Obamacare Redux plan essentially is better because he's not going to have to raise taxes. So he tweets out, with a link to an article from AP News, which says 2020 Dems grapple with how to pay for Medicare for All. Joe Biden says, here's the deal. My plan to build on Obamacare will expand healthcare coverage and lower costs without raising taxes on the middle class. Proponents of Medicare for All can't say the same. That's not true, because the whole idea behind Medicare for All is that you're going to pay less. And yes, again, you're going to have to pay higher in taxes, but the costs are going to be a hell of a lot lower than they're going to be for Obamacare, which is not even that low. And you don't even, a lot of times you don't even get to keep your doctor and all that shit that Obama said about, oh, you're gonna be able to keep your doctor, and you're not gonna lose your doctor, and you're not gonna lose your provider. No, that's bullshit. Because under single payer, if you ask anybody from any other industrialized country out there, they all say, no, we're allowed to keep our We're allowed to keep our doctor and our providers, and nothing gets lost there. We don't have to pay anything extra. There's no wait lines. There's no rationing and all that shit. If you want to talk about wait lines and rationing, that's what's happening in this country. So the people that whine about that kind of stuff happening in Canada and Europe and France and all Scandinavia, that's bullshit. Because when it happens over there, if anything, those are done for like elective procedures. Those are done for matters that are pertaining to like surgery. So like, for example, if you need a surgery but it's not like something you need right there and then. So like, let's say it's like a knee surgery, right? Or surgery on some sort of like elbow and an arm or something, right? Okay, it's not a big deal. But if there's a situation where you need surgery, and if you don't get it, your life is, you're going to die, your life is going to be over, then yes, of course, they're not going to make you wait. But if you compare that to what happens in this country, you want cancer treatment, you want to get chemotherapy and stuff, they fucking kick you off your healthcare insurance. They, all those, ridiculous for-profit health insurance companies, they kick you off because they're like, yeah, we don't want to cover you for that. So fuck you, and if you die, then who gives a shit? So don't talk about rationing and wait lines for Canada and the UK, when at least in those countries they only have to wait, and they only have to wait for their health, their healthcare outcomes. Essentially, they have to wait for them if it's an elective procedure. But if it's a life and death situation, they get you right away. They cover you right away, and they do what they need to do to save your life. Which is why in this country, like I said in the last segment, the life expectancy is so fucking low that we die a hell of a lot sooner than we should. While in other countries, it's a hell of a lot better, and they treat their fellow human beings as human beings instead of subhumans, basically.